What up? Drew Schroeder here, and today I have with me Frank King. He's a comedian, suicide prevention, and post-vention public speaker and trainer. He was a writer for The Tonight Show for 20 years, was a corporate comedian, or is a corporate comedian, syndicate humor columnist, and podcast personality, was featured on CNN's Business Unusual, and also depression and suicide runs in his family. Frank, how's it going?
Well, yeah, as you just said, depression and suicide run in my family, so yeah, pretty bad.
Also a dark humor comedian.
Oh yeah.
I should definitely say that because I'm into dark humor too. So
yes, but we should do a trigger alert.
Yeah.
Trigger alert, and then we're gonna be discussing topics that can raise strong emotions. And so, if that's an issue for you, suicide, depression, so forth and so on, that either now would be a time to bail out if that's going to be an issue. But I don't trigger anybody.
I do understand that a lot of people, especially in the military, they fall under the same category, that they love dark humor because that's that's how they cope with depression.
Oh, yeah. Doctors, ambulance drivers, or EMTs, and when I speak on suicide prevention, it's not jokes that I tell; it's funny personal stories that are, I'm doing my first TED Talk, and I said, when I started researching the TED Talk, I went to the TED.com, the big site where they got millions of talks on hundreds of thousands, and I typed in the word suicide to see how other people handle it. Talk, and there were 3 talks, only 3, and then it hit me. Well, if you're really good at suicide, chances are you're not going to be recording a TEDx talk. So that's the kind of dark,
Right.
I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger.
Right.
A friend of mine came up actually after a keynote. You never heard me say that out loud. He goes, "Hey man, how come you didn't pull the trigger?" I go, "Hey man, could you try to sound slightly less disappointed?" That's where, because people ask me, is suicide, depression fun? No, you don't. I don't joke about it. Yeah, I just tell funny, personal. Here's the thing, Drew. In comedy, there's a rule: you can make fun of any group to which you belong. If I were neurotypical or neuronormal, I'd be crucified with the stuff that I say.
Right.
Because I have major depressive disorder and chronic suicidal ideation, and so have license to talk about those things in a funny way if I choose, because that's, people said, "How did you choose suicide as a topic?" Well, I'll tell you the truth, topic picked me.
I did want to talk to you about the how because I did watch your TED Talk and you said that it runs in your family. And that I'm in the self-help community, right? I've gone through like Tony Robbins seminars where Tony Robbins has really helped people out with their depression, like right in front of 7,000 people were at the seminar with me. And he stopped this girl, and it seemed like he really changed her in just a couple of minutes. Have you ever considered going to like one of these seminars, or do any of these books help with that, or is it just hereditary, or do you think it's hereditary?
Well, my grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I screamed for days.
Right.
And I came close enough to dying that honestly, I could tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like. I've got a friend who's a therapist who has a client who has the depression, suicide go back 5 generations.
Right.
So in my case, it's not a matter of, because I've had people say that to me, you need to get this book or go to this.
Be happy. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And, choose joy. Well, if you're not talking about dishwashing liquid, I'm out of luck. It's just the way I'm wired. Now, the good news is I believe that mental illness is not a singularity, but actually a duality. And it's mental illness and often mental ableness in the same brain. I had a TED Talk on it called Mental with Benefits, the Evolutionary Advantages of Mental Illness. Because everybody I knew who was mentally ill but high functioning always had some kind of superpower. Great comedian, singer, artist, writer. And if you look at the laundry list of celebrities, politicians, wealthy people, famous people, there's a lot of folks out there with one issue or the other. And so I just believe my depression and thoughts of suicide is simply the flip side of my comedic ability,
Yeah.
creativity, imagination. It's all the same, because I can teach you to write stand up, teach you to do stand up, but I cannot teach you to process it, the
Right.
incoming information, the way I do. It's just the way my brain works.
So,
No
because
hope is what I'm saying.
right. Yeah, I totally, yeah. I get that train of thinking, but like my last video that I just published on my YouTube channel is titled How to Be Happy, right? And I mean, I've turned people around that have been depressed and were on like the strongest antidepressants for years,
Mhm.
right? And then like just being around those people long enough, you know, lay down with dogs, you come back up with fleas, you know. But like it's also the other way, right? Where people create mastermind groups and you know, like positivity circles and stuff. Do you think that would have like any influence, or because you said it was like no?
No, and I'm probably the most positive suicidal person you'll ever meet. I've got a good attitude, got a good life. I mean,
Right.
it's major depressive disorder is a cycle. It's like
Yeah.
it's not generally situational. I've been most depressed at some of the best times in my life. Mortgage paid off, lots of bookings on the calendar. I have a lovely wife, wonderful animals. We're living in La Jolla, California, which is a
I
really,
I La Jolla, yeah, that was like that was on my dream board for a
yeah.
long
And
time.
so we were the poorest people in a really nice neighborhood, but still, it was La
Yeah.
Jolla.
Of course. La
Yeah,
Jolla.
and it didn't matter because major depressive disorder is like a wheel with a flat spot. Every so often, it comes around and
Ah,
lasts 3 days to 3 weeks and recurs. And so it's not a matter of positive thinking or resilience or choosing. It's not really a choice. What you can choose to do is, I used to say that I fight depression, but that implies I can beat it. So what I say is I live with depression. Um,
mhm.
we owned horses before the bankruptcy, and there's a series of books by a horseman, on riding and so forth. And he would say that you don't ride on the horse if you're doing it properly. You ride with the horse.
Right.
So with depression, I believe that you live. You don't fight it. You don't push back against it. There's a martial art called Aikido, which is about blending with your opponent's energy, taking their balance, and then lowering them back to the ground. And
Right.
that's sort of the attitude I take is I just blend with the energy of the depression best I can, because it's got quite an energy, and use it to help me move forward on those days, to get out of bed until it passes. And I have the benefit, my cycle's 3 days, basically 72 hours. Having had it so many times, that I know if I start to spiral down, that 72 hours later, I'm coming right back up. So I ride it out. The danger through
Ah,
it,
okay.
if you're younger and you're not used to, and you don't know there's a cycle, and you don't know that people who are severely depressed often live in the immediate, in the moment. And the thought they have that's dangerous is it's never going to be any better than this right this minute. Why
Right.
bother?
Yeah.
That's dangerous. Being an old guy who's been through it so many times, that and I have this coping mechanism, major depressive disorder and chronic suicidal ideation. Chronic suicidal ideation means, for me and people in my tribe, the option of suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. And the example I give in my keynote is my car broke down a couple of years ago. I had 3 thoughts unbidden: get it fixed, buy a new one, I could just kill myself. That's chronic suicidal ideation. Oftentimes when I speak, every time I've spoken since 2014, there's been somebody in the audience who has that. They don't know it has a name. They think they're just some kind of freak and completely alone. And when they hear me say that out loud, a young woman came up to me after a college presentation. She goes, "Thanks for your keynote." I said, "You're welcome." She goes, "But I got to tell you, it made me weep." "How did it make you weep?" She goes, "Well, you know your story about the car, get it fixed, buy a new one, kill yourself." I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I've been having those thoughts all my life. I
Right.
thought it was just me. I didn't know it had a name. I thought it was some kind of freak. Heard you say that out loud, realized for the first time in my life that I'm not alone, and I wept." So now, hopefully, I've steered her far enough off the path of suicide by just revealing that it's a thing and you're not alone, that she'll live a normal life. So I
Right.
think it's possible to improve especially with knowledge that, because many of the mental ill people I've met, initially they thought it's just me. And then you find out that 1 in 4 people in the US has a mental illness of some kind, treated, untreated, diagnosed, undiagnosed, from, from autism and dyslexia to psychoaffective.
Yeah, put me in that category.
Yeah, you are.
I have ADHD.
Okay.
I was actually showing my girlfriend last night some videos of me just absolutely losing my mind. And I was in special ed classes my whole school career. So,
well, and one of the issues with ADHD, by the way, is the symptoms of childhood trauma are very similar to the symptoms of ADHD.
I would say that I was definitely depressed and also suicidal in my life, but not in the cycles that you're talking about, more along the lines of a downward spiral that it could last a couple of months,
Well, and the benefit of chronic suicidal ideation is that suicide's most often not about wanting to kill yourself. It's about wanting to end the pain. And because I know I can pull the trigger at any moment,
right,
it allows me to stand a great deal of pain because I'm in control of this situation. I'm not, it's not like that kid who thinks, it's never going to get any better. Why bother? I can handle that pain knowing that, if it got really bad, bad, I could end my life. The thing is, because of all these people who come up after my shows for the last 7 years, and I've enlightened them that it has a name. It occurred to me that I'm sort of like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. I've been shown what these people's lives would be like if I weren't there to reassure them that they're not alone. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. And if I kill myself, then anybody who would have heard me speak, and I might have steered them off the path to suicide, well, if I did kill myself, I would probably take a lot of those people with me.
That's that has also crossed my mind because I'm influential in that whole part too, where I'm in the self-help community, so I want to not only make myself look good, but also help other people. And, just how do I word this without coming across as,
well, what I think
on a pedestal, but I understand what you're saying because I've thought that too.
Well, and when somebody in the suicide prevention community takes their life, it has a bigger impact than just because you think to yourself, well, good God, if he can't make it,
right?
Well, why do I bother?
Right, like that happy-go-lucky guy that,
So, but because
someone that was like, hey, I'm fighting this, I'm living with this. Yeah, I know what you're saying. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that's kind of like using the carrot to drive the cart, right?
Yeah. And so the and because I believe I was born to, I know I was born to be a comedian. I knew that since 4th grade. Mm-hmm. But because speaking on suicide prevention is my purpose and my passion. I mean, I go to bed thinking about it, wake up thinking about it, and I'm having purpose and having a passion is very powerful in terms of extending your longevity, your life, if you feel like you're doing something good for someone else. Yeah. I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah. Trying to grow as a person and contributing to society. I know that it's definitely a driving force that can pull people out of that depressive state too.
Well, and in terms of positive thinking, resilience training, and that kind of thing. Somebody said you should take resilience training. Oh, look, here's the deal. If I were not resilient, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Right. But for people who are, let's say, situationally depressed, because maybe of the pandemic and the uncertainty and all that, they've never been depressed before, but all of a sudden they can't get out of bed in the morning and they don't really understand why, because they don't, they've never been in a depressive cycle. Yeah. I think for those people, the resilience training and positive thinking and, the seminars and the books and all that would be very helpful to help them at a time. And then, when this passes,
Yeah.
chances are they'll go, they'll have survived it. And hopefully they'll have a whole lot more respect for people like, people that have depression.
Yeah.
They'll understand better why it's so painful.
Yeah. I could also understand how going to one of those seminars could also backfire too, because they're thinking, why is this not working for me if it's working for everybody else?
And if they didn't realize that what they had was a thing, and that it's it's a diagnosable mental illness, and once again, it's just me. I said there's something wrong. Everybody here is having a great time. They're all pumped up, and I'm just
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation, is because, my last video, how to be happy, I know that's not exactly for everybody. And that's why this is going to be my next video, to just bring everything together and make sure I cover all my bases on, trying to get people to live a fulfilled life and not short,
Yeah. And I recommend that during the pandemic, I've been doing a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
Specifically and I've got a keynote that I do called Social Distancing and Staying Sane. Don't worry so much about your mentally ill friends.
Yeah.
Because most high functioning mentally ill people have systems in place.
Okay.
I have a 5-point self-care plan. I practice something called gamification, and I have a very solid routine. The thread that ties those together, they're all things I can control in a very uncontrolled world.
Yes, what are some of those things that you can share on how you cope with that? Because that's another thing that I was really worried about was, everyone cooped up inside for months on end, and not to mention that isolation fosters depression.
Yeah, what I do is, and a lot of other mentally ill people, is the 5 things are diet. I'm on a keto diet, and I do intermittent fasting, so I'm in control of what I put in my body. So diet, exercise. Right behind me is an old ancient Nordic track. You wouldn't recognize it because there's no clothes hanging on it, but that's what it is. And I got some stretchy bands with a lab roller thing, so I can exercise them. And I walk the dogs in the morning, and it's a mile uphill, then back downhill. So diet, exercise, good night's sleep is restorative. You can get a nice sleep. Meditation twice a day. It's a guided meditation called the cat napper. Takes you down, brings you back up 29 minutes later. So it's sort of a manual reset, lowers cortisol, blood pressure, that kind of thing. And then medication. I didn't take any medication except an over-the-counter antidepressant called SAM-E, SAM-E. It's not marketed as an antidepressant, but it's very effective on mild depression. It's also good for your liver, by the way, and your joint. But at age 60, I thought I'll just ask the doctor, and he prescribed something, and it's the lowest dose they offer. And it just takes the edge off. It doesn't make me giddy, but it just takes that ragged edge off. So diet, exercise, good night's sleep, meditation, medication, and I would recommend routine. They ask a guy who's been in the space station for a year, man, how do you deal with that kind of social isolation? He goes, it's simple. I have a routine. I go to bed the same time every night. I get up same time every morning, eat my meals roughly same time, exercise roughly same time.
Morning and night, as if
you're
up in space.
I got to lower the shades, bring the shades back up. Yeah, but he said it's just, again, things you can't.
Having a ritual.
Yeah, and then gamification. If I can't get out of bed in the morning, I make a game of it. What I do is I make a to-do list of 6 things. And the game is, once I scratch off number 6, I don't care if it's 3 p.m, broad daylight, I can crawl back in bed, pull the covers over my head, and watch the 2nd season of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus or whatever, the next episode of How to Get Away with Murder, or, So that's the game. And I make the same sort of a game. The gym's 25 minutes away when you can go there, and it's open back up again.
Yeah.
And my game is, if I get to the gym and go in the building, all I have to do is 1 rep of 1 exercise. I can turn around and go home. I've never done that. But by the time I get there, I'm an hour and a half.
Yeah. But
I have the option, because I got there. If I decide walk in 1 bicep curl,
that's
the deal.
Yeah, because you're already in that mood, you're already in here anyway. You might as well do that. Of course. Yeah.
And the gamification allows you to move forward,
Yeah.
and the last thing is do something nice for somebody else, because mentally ill people tend to spend way too much time in their own head. And you can get out of that head by helping someone else out. And so you're better off and they're better off. So it's a win-win.
Of course.
So those are my techniques. And I do that, whether it's a pandemic, just day in, day out, just to move forward in life.
I remember during the beginning of the pandemic, I did the insanity workout program. And that was a 60-day program. You could just do it in your living room. And I mean, like, I believe that contributed to my keeping my sanity as well. Because, yeah.
I recommend also, and I'll show you a photograph, I recommend you also have an avocation or hobby or something you really enjoy doing that has absolutely nothing to do with what you do for work. Something in which you can achieve, something you enjoy, something where you can see the results, whether it's gardening or, the thing I love about
books.
Yeah. The thing I love about cutting the grass is when you're done, you look back and go, damn, looks good. My wife always asks me, why do you wait so long to cut the grass? I said, well, if you do it too soon, you can't really see.
You can't see the progress.
Yeah. And so what I do is I'm getting ready for another all natural bodybuilding contest in July.
Wow, you look really cut.
Oh, thanks. That's 8% body fat. That's the result of keto.
8%. I got you.
So
it shows. My goal is just to get to at least 10.
Yeah. Well, that was my original goal, and I want to get down to 4, which is the lowest safe level for men.
Right. And on the keto diet, you could probably you could reach that pretty well, huh?
That plus the intermittent fasting, cutting back on the food. So my thing is going to the gym, and because you can see the results, you can achieve. I've done one contest already. I placed. Yeah. So it's completely different from what I do for a living. It is not. And the great thing about a gym, by the way, in a life where there's not that many things in control. Yeah. If I go to a gym in Springfield, Oregon, where I live, or if I go to a gym at a hotel in Orlando, where I was last week, a 25-pound dumbbell weighs 25 pounds. Right. The elliptical runner, the life fitness elliptical runner is the same as the life fitness elliptical. Even if the brand names are different, everything is, you walk in, you feel like you're at home because, it's all the same stuff. Yeah. It's consistent no matter where you go. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. I like when I guess this doesn't really compare because the way that you worded the way you talk about your depression is different than how I had my what I would say would be depression. Is that I would make myself go for walks when where I'm really deep in my head, and that walk will soon turn into like a power walk. And then that's just like, I guess that's my way of coping out of a bad funk. And then I always think about things that I'm grateful for, or that I try. And if I can't think of anything, then I always ask myself, if I wanted to be grateful for anything right now,
what would it be?
Hey, what would it be? There's probably nothing, but if there was, just the smallest thing,
Well, and when my wife and I filed bankruptcy, we began to play the grateful game. The nice thing about bankruptcy is, if there's a nice thing, is you drill down to what you need versus what you want. Yeah. And so every morning when we walk the dogs, we had to say 3 things we were grateful for, and it couldn't be the 3 things from the day before. Uh-huh. It forces you to be grateful, whether it's just not raining, or, all the animals are healthy, or, whatever it is, you had to come up with 3 things you were grateful. It's good. It's a good mental practice, I think. Again, to get out of your head, your head. You may still be depressed and I'm still upset because we filed bank, but
it's just enough, right?
Yeah, we do have things to be thankful for.
That's good to hear.
Oh yeah,
and if you can't think of anything, you ask yourself, if I want it to be, what could I be grateful for?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, my suicidality keeps me alive because I know I can pull the trigger anytime. So I can,
Yeah.
because as often as I said, it's more about pain than it is about killing yourself, and I know I can end the pain anytime I like, so I can stand a great deal more,
Right.
knowing that I'm in control.
Of course.
Yeah, they found people in the hospital when they gave them control of the morphine for pain.
Yeah.
They Everybody was worried that they were going to overdose or use too much, and what they found was just the opposite. They give them a button, and so when they're in control, they go longer between doses, thinking I can go a little longer, I can go a little longer, and go a little longer.
Right.
Interesting. I thought fascinating that they would actually go
Yeah.
longer, but they're in control. They don't have to buzz the nurse or beg for the medication. They got the button.
But isn't there a cap on it too?
Oh yeah, they could if
Yeah.
they did. Yeah, you probably couldn't kill yourself because you only press it so many times within a certain
Right.
period of time.
Right.
It's like death with dignity in Oregon or assisted suicide or whatever. They find that people who are given the option to take a cocktail at some point, if a doctor agrees that they're terminal and no hope, and a psychiatrist agrees they're mentally, with it,
Yeah.
they tend to live longer with a better quality of life because they're in control. They know they can end the pain at any point. So they tend to live longer and better, which again, ironically, it actually extends
Yeah.
life and quality of life. So
It definitely, like, that's it. As strange as that sounds, it sounds like something that I would assume too. Like people want that choice, but they want to take the right choice.
yeah. And they want to stick around as long as they can. But when the time comes and it gives everybody time to get together and type any loose ends, finish unfinished business, and but again, they tend to live longer and they're happier. Again,
Right.
now the good news in Oregon is for people with depression, PTSD, and addiction issues or substance abuse disorder,
Yeah.
is that in January of 2023, psilocybin, the psychoactive ingredient in magic mushrooms, is going to be legal with a psychiatrist, heavy duty therapy, and microdoses. And it's legal in Canada. I've got a TEDx coaching client who's the head
Right.
physician for the Canadian military.
Yeah.
And their research shows that it may not simply be a patch. It may help the brain rewire. So you end up taking less over a shorter period of time with much better results and without the side effects. So I can't wait till January. I'm going to talk to my psychiatrist. Go, look, I want a microdose starting
Yeah.
January 2nd.
It's crazy. I was just talking to someone about microdosing too.
We do now with cannabis. My wife is
Yeah.
a connoisseur. She studies it. I take a pinch about the size of half of a pea
Yeah.
between my cheek and gum and leave it under my tongue. And it's mostly CBD, with a
Yeah.
little THC to make sure to make it effective.
Yeah.
And it, on days when I need a little something extra, then I'll put a little pinch between my cheek and gum.
Mm-hmm.
And it does actually, you don't get high because there's not enough THC in it to get high, but
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love CBD as well. When I remember I'm in Las Vegas now, but when I was in Michigan, there was like just bottles of water that had CBD in it. And I was just like drinking that. And it was like, it was better than any gummies or anything. And I can't find it anywhere here in Las Vegas. And I actually went out of my way that I liked them so much that I contacted them on Instagram, the company that makes it. And I was like, hey, do you guys have any? And they're like, yeah, there's actually 3 stores, but we can't tell you for distribution purposes. I'm like, what? You don't want sales? And they're like, because I think they were like testing or something from what I'm assuming. And I was just like, oh, are you kidding me? So there's a hunt for it right now.
yeah. So I think eventually the things like
Yeah.
psilocybin,
Yeah.
natural product,
Yeah.
very few side effects, if any, heavy duty therapy, not just, not just chewing on mushrooms.
Microdosing. Yes.
Microdose. Yeah. And like I said, in Canada, the studies they've done so far show a great deal of promise.
Promising enough for it to pass in what was it? Colorado?
Yep. Colorado too.
Yeah.
I think eventually most states will. Washington certainly, because Washington normally leads Oregon on those kind of things. I'm
Yeah.
surprised Oregon got it first, but I bet you next time around it'll pass in Washington.
I'm assuming that knowing Michigan was pretty quick with the legalization of marijuana,
Yeah.
that it could probably show up in Michigan too, pretty soon. At least for medical, because it took a while for it to get to be recreational in Michigan.
Same thing in Oregon. It was medical for a year or two, and then they passed recreational, and so yeah, I think eventually, I mean, Portugal apparently decriminalized everything,
Yeah,
and they had, I believe, fewer than 100 overdoses last year
yeah,
of anything, and in the United States, 67,000 overdoses.
yeah.
So yeah, the war on drugs, I think we've lost. I think that
my
started
my
about.
brother, like total pothead. He's like I survived the war on drugs.
Yeah, well, there are people nowadays
Like
in
my
prison.
pothead comrades.
There are people in prison
Yeah,
for doing what. I mean, the first time I went into a dispensary to buy some weed for my wife
yeah,
in broad daylight,
yeah,
and the guy he puts the whatever she was buying, an eighth, a quarter, an ounce, whatever it was. And he's weighing it. He's pulling out the seed. I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm pulling out the seeds and stems." I go, "Man, I'm 60 whatever years old. When I was a teenager, seeds and stem were sort of like hamburger helper. It was a way to extend, to charge you more for. I mean, sometimes it's
yeah,
just seeds and stems, and then walk
yeah,
out with a little brown bag
yeah,
to my car in broad daylight with an ounce of weed. I mean, things people are in prison for now.
yeah. I was my friend was just showing me images of weed that was back in like the 70s, and I'm like, it looks like uh dill weed, you know?
Yeah,
It looked nasty. And now, like me, I don't smoke.
yeah,
Sometimes like I gotta, if I have to have like edibles,
yeah.
like I don't like smoking. It's just, to me it's nasty. So when I see those nugs, I think of it. It looks like a dirt clod now. It just looks so unattractive. The smell of weed smells gross. But I mean, like, hey, if people want to do it, I don't care. You know.
Yeah.
But I even voted for it. I used to be so against weed until it went on the ballot to vote on, and then I was like, all right, yeah, people, if they want to, if it's not hurting anyone, I don't care, whatever, you know.
Well, and my wife does what's called, she decarboxylates it, which she got a device it's like curing tobacco, where you
Yeah,
heat it slowly,
yeah,
and then it activates this and that, and and the end product is where you can take a pinch about the size of a half a pea, and
yeah.
you know,
There was also something that I wanted to bring up too, is that I was actually on this medicine too, um, to help me stay awake. And going back to the suicide prevention, is this medicine. It was a very rare side effect on having suicidal thoughts, and
oh,
it was different than just me wanting to off myself, you know. And like I was taking this medicine for a while, and then it caught on, and where I'm just like, I keep thinking of it in my head to do it, right? To kill myself. But I don't have the desire to do it
sure.
either, you know?
Was it modafinil?
100% yes.
Yeah, I take that. I take it I take it 5 days a week, and I take what they call a fast on the weekend. I don't do it Saturday and Sunday. So that by
Yeah.
Monday, it's cleared my body, and it's because I have a
Wow. You
condition
nailed
called,
that one, huh?
well, I've got a condition called
Yeah.
excessive daytime sleepiness.
Yeah.
And if I fall asleep at the wheel in the middle of the day,
Yeah.
it's not narcolepsy, it's not apnea, it's just a strange second cousin to all that.
Yeah.
And I've totaled a car in the past because I fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
And modafinil was designed for that particular ailment. Now
Yeah.
it's a party drug because
Well, it's the limitless pill, you know.
yes,
It makes you super productive.
yeah.
Yeah. I was grinding it out for like months, getting a lot done, but it was still that in the back of my head where it does from what I looked up, it does give suicidal thoughts. And it was different than just me wanting to kill myself because I didn't want to. I just kept thinking about it though.
Well, and it happens to work well in combination with my antidepressant. The two together seem to, it seems to be a good cocktail. By the way, there's a DNA cheek swab now test for psychotropics, if you're not aware. Let's say you're depressed and you're trying to pick a medication and they give you medication, about 1/3 of people who take a medication love it.
Yeah.
Second third, last third, Jesus. It's like, so if you find yourself in that situation where you're in either the second, or the third, then you do a DNA cheek swab and they try to match your DNA with whatever antidepressant will work best with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's called precision medicine. It's not perfect, but it helps dial in and reduce the go on, doesn't work, taper off, go on, doesn't work, taper off.
Yeah.
Lab rat sort of thing. So it's a couple $100. Most insurances pay for it. And I mean, it's slowly but surely getting better.
Yeah. And then when I realized it was the modafinil, I switched to modafinil 2.0, the armodafinil, and that worked so much better.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to ask my sleep. I have a sleep, PA who prescribes it for me because I had to have. I've had several sleep tests.
Yeah.
And that they go, oh no, you have excessive daytime sleepiness.
Yeah.
You qualify. So.
Yeah. It's called armodafinil, and I only took that a little bit, but then I ran out. And then I'm like, no need for it, whatever. So yeah, this is pretty interesting conversation. I didn't think it was going to go in this direction either.
I see.
Yeah, no, this is, oh yeah, I'm doing a bunch of drugs now. No. So my whole audience, self-help, just no.
Yeah. Yeah. When somebody asked me, I just had my second vaccine.
Yeah.
They asked, are you on any medication? And, or I think they may have asked also about, street drugs.
Right.
And I always answer this way, heroin, because it stops them in their tracks.
Right.
And they look at me like, I go, oh, well, I don't shoot it. I snort it. I'm not stupid.
Let's see. Yeah. Mine is in about 2 weeks. So I will be stealing that joke. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I just got my second shot and I was delighted to have it because here's how suicide comes in handy, Drew.
Yeah.
I got a call from a speakers bureau in February. They had an engagement in Florida in March. They wanted a speaker. And they couldn't find anybody who was willing to fly into a state with no mask mandate in the middle of a pandemic. So the guy calls me up, desperation. He goes, man, will you fly into Florida? I go, dude, I'm suicidal. Yeah. What do I care? I got the gig. Nobody else take it. By then I already had my first shot, so I wasn't worried. That's like 80%.
Right.
So, and I got a special N95 mask for the plane. So, I beefed up I'm not stupid. I'm not reckless.
Yeah.
So
I got you. Do you have any shows coming up? Or is there anything that you wanted to talk about with like any shows? Or I mean, if you wrote a book, dude, I would totally read it too. I didn't see that you wrote a book.
I'll save you the trouble of reading it. Two other people, two co-authors, and I have written a series. We're writing a series of 4 books on men's mental health.
Okay.
And third one went up on Amazon on 8th of April. Bestseller in 3 categories, first day, because there's just nothing out there on men's mental health. But here's the thing, Drew. If you go to my website, thementalhealthcomedian.com, and put an email address in, you can download the MP3 of the first book I narrated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's free. It's 4 hours and 14 minutes, I think, and it's sort of a chicken soup for the soul anthology. 12 guys. Each one has an issue.
Yeah.
Life is good is the first part. Life went bad, and here's how I'm coping. The coping part is what because guys told us if we're gonna read a book on men's mental health, it needs to be real guys, real problems, and how they're really coping.
I'm familiar with chicken soup for the soul. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So it's
familiar
that
with it.
style book, and we made it look like an automobile owner's manual, so guys would actually pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we used automobile metaphors. For example, don't you wish the man in your life had a mental check engine light? It goes off. He goes to the mental mechanic. The guy
Yeah.
puts him up on the rack and goes, Bob, no wonder you're depressed. You're 2 quarts low on serotonin. So it's all automobile. You need a pit crew if you have a problem. You need to plan ahead. Like with a car, you buy a AAA membership because somewhere, sometime, something's going to go wrong. Flat tire, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about taking the concept of mental, vehicle routine maintenance. Your brain needs routine. There's a line there that says, if men took care of their cars like they took care of their brains, you better buy a bus pass. Because,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a 4-book series, but you get the first one free on audio with me narrating it if you go to my website.
Cool. All right. I'll definitely check it out. And then, yeah, I think we're pretty good. That was great conversation. Thank you so much for,
Oh yeah. One last note, Drew, is that when I do a keynote, I always give out my cell phone number.
Okay.
And you're welcome to put this in the show notes. It's 858-405-5653, 858-405-5653, because there may be somebody listening who has chronic suicidal ideation. They just found out it has a name.
Yeah.
Or they just haven't. What I tell the audience is this. I put the number up on the screen.
Yeah.
I go, look, if you're suicidal, for goodness sakes, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or if you're younger, text help to 741-741, same principle.
Yeah.
If you're just having a really bad day, call a crazy person, and here's my cell number. And people call about once every 2 weeks. It's a call about themselves or a loved one, or they're looking resources. It's just, they just reach out because they have an issue or they know somebody's got an issue. And I'm always happy to help with resources. And,
Yeah.
Guy called me the other day and said he was depressed and suicidal because I'd given out my number on a podcast. And he goes, I got an Amtrak schedule.
Okay.
Means he's planning to step in front of a train. So unlike a neurotypical person who would probably freak out at that point, I said to him, look, I'm not going to ask you not to kill yourself. I mean, I wish you wouldn't. But what I am going to ask you to do is don't do it that way, because what's going to happen inevitably is when you step onto the tracks, you're going to lock eyes with the engineer, and that engineer will never be the same again.
Right.
You're ruining his or her life as well as taking your own. So I'm not saying don't kill yourself, but for goodness sakes, there's no need to ruin somebody else's life in the process.
Right.
That's the benefit of calling a crazy person. Yeah, go ahead and kill yourself, but for Christ's sake, don't do it on a train track.
There has to be a compromise, right?
Yeah. Well, my compromise is really dark. Is if you want to take somebody with you, get the bomb vest, and then find somebody who really deserves to die. I mean, some jackass, and then go wrap your arms around him and then push the button. Do us all a favor. But of course, I'm a comedian and I'm joking.
Of course.
I don't want you to think anybody.
I'm just like, wow, this is.
Yeah, well, that's it's like physicians and EMTs. It's that dark gallows. You should sit with us sometimes when I sit down with crazy people. I mean, the conversation. If we're in a coffee shop or something, and somebody can hear us, they're just, because that's the way we cope. That's the way we talk. It's
right.
I get together for coffee back when we could get together for coffee. Yeah, I call it my crazy coffee class. There's a half a dozen of us in town. Usually 2 or 3 or 4 show up. We take off our game faces. Yeah. And we're ourselves for an hour, and then put them back on as we do most mornings, and march through the world nobody knows. So
I got you. I'll put your phone number in the description of the video.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That wants to see.
Sometimes people call. I say once every 2 weeks or so, or they'll text me.
Okay, cool. I'll be more than happy to do that. And then again, thank you so much for being on my show.
Hey, look, Drew. Here's the deal. My goal every day is to save one person.
Of course.
It's conceivable. That today,
how many meetings
may have saved somebody.
How many meetings do you have a day?
I try to do 4 to 6 guest spots on suicide prevention a week
Uh-huh.
for that reason. Because,
Okay.
if we can talk about it out loud, whoever may be listening may think, well, damn, they may feel really alone. And all of a sudden they realize, hold on,
Yeah.
there's some crazy comedian out there who's,
And I kind of like his humor too.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, Drew.
Yeah.
People have an idea in their minds what mental illness looks and sounds like. And then to see a guy on stage, 20-year writer for the Tonight Show, comedian, 35 years.
Yeah.
Obviously high functioning. It's like cognitive dissonance. You can't hold the image of what you thought and believed about mental illness and what people look like with what you're seeing on stage. Like, this does not compute. This is not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
I'm trying to, what I'm trying to do, Drew, is make it as easy to talk about mental illness as it is about talking sports or the weather.
And I'm just trying to get more messages out there because I know that there's more to it than just, hey, why don't you just be happy?
Man, I wish it was that easy. I wish it were. And I'm a happy guy, generally. I mean, like I said, I'm probably the most positive suicidal person you'll ever meet. I got a great attitude, great life. I'm doing what I love for a living, wonderful wife, animals, nice house. We recovered from the bankruptcy and, things. I have a good life. It's possible to be suicidal and be positive at the same time.
Yeah. I like being watching a lot of positivity stuff and or if it comes across on my TikTok or whatever about someone being depressed and stuff. And then I read the comments and someone will just say, why don't you just be happy or smile more? And it's just it's so cringy to watch because I know it doesn't really work that way.
No, it's painful. It's like I said, choose joy unless you're talking about dishwashing liquid. And B, Drew, if it were that easy, would not I have done it 40 years ago?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it were that easy. I wish it would just be a choice.
Yeah.
But there are choices. There are choices how you deal with it. I choose to take a medication. I choose to, to continue living. There are a lot of choices. If I choose not to fight it, I just to ride it out.
Yeah. And just thank you for making the right choice because you seem like such a nice person too.
And again, that's what I'm hoping that my example will help people.
Yeah.
And people have sent me notes, emails, DMs. I saw I was at worst time of my life. I stumbled, a woman DM'd me on Twitter because I reached out to connect. And she wrote back, I can't believe it's you. And I'm like, what? Read on. I came across your video last fall. It was the worst time in my life. I was thinking about ending my life. And I watched your TED Talk and I saw you on stage being vulnerable and sharing. And I thought to myself, if he can do it. It was just powerful to see someone so raw and just let it all hang out, as we used to say in the 70s, not holding anything back. She said, I took a sabbatical from work and now, the darkness is is past and I'm happier than I've ever been. So thank you for, helping me over that,
Yeah.
So, which is very therapeutic for me. I mean, when I read it the first time, I cried.
Yeah.
And I get one of those every month or so. I saw your YouTube, I get a DM, somebody, so it's very rewarding and therapeutic for me.
Of course. And it's going to be very rewarding when I publish this video soon. So,
well, send me a link and I'll post it all over my social media.
I appreciate it.
I'm old, but I have 23,337 LinkedIn connections.
There you go.
I know, I'm an old guy.
Did I send you a request on LinkedIn? I don't remember. I might have seen you.
If you did, I click them all. I just, anybody reaches out, I always click.
I'm just getting into LinkedIn. I'm getting back into it, because I stopped for a while. But my LinkedIn is always in my description, and when I find you, I'll put you in there too, if you don't mind.
Great. Yeah. Cool. I find a lot of clients, TEDx coaching clients, other clients, mental health clients on LinkedIn. It's a great platform.
Cool.
All right, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.